Good morning. Welcome to the Red Corral Ranch in the beautiful scenic hill country of Texas, and the first ever event of its kind, an advanced hooponopono seminar, where you will, over the course of a couple of days, learn, among other things, the correct way to pronounce hooponopono. And we have people here from all over the world, and so we would like to welcome y'all, and the correct way to pronounce that is y'all. It's one syllable, not you all, y'all. So get used to that while you're here. I'm Michael Abedin. I'm the publisher and editor of Austin All Natural magazine, and our host today has graciously asked me to be the master of ceremonies, which is kind of a weighty responsibility, made even weightier by the fact that he said, the reason I'd like you to do this is because you have good jokes. And this has actually been kind of a deal. You know, it was sort of on the Facebook interview and everything else. And that's a weighty responsibility, and that for a gathering of this sort, holistic or metaphysical or spiritual jokes are really kind of hard to come by. And the way I found this out was I get invited to speak at a lot of events, publishing Austin All Natural magazine. And I was invited to speak at the inaugural meeting of a group called the Austin chapter of a group called the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. Yeah. And so I spoke at their very first meeting. They're now defunct. I don't know if there's a direct connection to that or not, but the woman who was in charge of it said, would you come speak, at this first meeting? And I said, what would you like me to talk about? And she said, marketing for holistic people. I said, well, I can do that, And she said, and make it entertaining. You're a funny guy. Tell some jokes. I said, well, I don't really know that many spiritual or holistic or metaphysical jokes, and the ones I know aren't very funny. And I told them to her, and she seemed to agree. So I was on my way home, and someone had asked me to keep an eye out for a particular metaphysical book, and I was driving by half-price books. And I thought, well, I'll just stop in there and take a peek. And I walked into the metaphysical section, and the first thing that I see is this little skinny book called Why is God Laughing? By Deepak Chopra. I'd never heard of this book. How many of you were at the event that Joe did a couple of years ago at the hotel in downtown Austin with, all right, so I'm going to use some of the same jokes, so y'all might want to go check your text or, take a bathroom break or something. So I opened up the book, and the first thing that I saw was a joke. And I don't know if you call it holistic or metaphysical, but it did involve God and prayer. So therefore, it probably qualifies as a spiritual joke. You want to hear it? Good. Because it's downhill from here. This is probably the best. This is probably the best one. So an atheist is out swimming in the ocean one day, and he looks up and he sees the unmistakable fin of a great white shark swimming directly towards him. And he cries out, "Oh God, save me!" And everything stops. The waves stop, the wind stops, the cloud stops, the shark stops. The clouds open and a light shines down on him, and a voice says, "Why would I save you? You don't even believe in me." And the atheist says, "I'll tell you what, if you can make that shark believe in you, I might believe in you too." And the voice says, "It's a deal." So the clouds come back, the light goes up, the waves start, here comes the shark, and right before it gets to him, it stops, it stands up on the surface of the water on its tail, bows its head, folds its little fins in front of its chest, and begins to pray. And the atheist thinks, wow, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there really is a God. Maybe I should believe in him. Then he listens a little more closely to the shark. He's saying, "Oh Lord, we give thanks for the food that we are about to receive." So, I'll tell you the not-so-funny ones later. I'll save those. If you really want to learn something, and you want to learn it well, other than, you can read books, you can watch videos, but the best thing to do is to be in the presence of someone who is really skilled and knowledgeable about it. Find an expert of sorts. And your host today is an expert at finding experts. He's worked with people like Bill Phillips for fitness, Melissa Etheridge for music, and has consistently sought out the top people in their field and then has brought that knowledge back to the readers of his books, to the people who watch his videos and DVDs, and for this lucky gathering here today in person. I started this magazine about 10 years ago, and there was a film that was just starting to surge in popularity then called The Secret. And there was a story that there was one of the guys who was in The Secret who actually lived in Wimberley, right outside of Austin. And I found him. I traced him down. I called him. He said, yeah, come on out and let's talk. And he actually started working with the magazine, has been ever since, has become my very best client, a very good friend. And I've been lucky enough that he sometimes sends me a lot of the things that he puts in his book ahead of time to do his articles in the magazine. And at one point, he sent me one about tracing down this mysterious Chinese man who had this ancient Hawaiian art that he wanted to research. And he brought him to Texas, and he did a class with him, and I had another obligation, couldn't attend. I emailed him on the Monday afterwards, and I said, how was it? And he said, I feel as if someone took their fist, drove it down into my skull, pulled my brain out, and reprogrammed it and put it back. I said, well, that sounds like fun. So you might have the same experience this weekend. You might have already. You may already be encountering some of that. If you haven't, you will. It's going to be a really good weekend. Some of the best people in their fields have been lined up to speak on various modalities and how they all intersect with, can complement with, and be complemented by the art of hooponopono. So without further ado, I would like to introduce your host for the weekend, a good friend of mine, Dr. Joe Vitale.
Thank you. Awesome as always. All right. In the beginning of my book, At Zero, I had an author's invocation, and it seems to me it's worth me saying here. O infinite divine mind, through my beloved high self, cleanse this unit of all negativity, both within and without, that it may be a perfect vessel for your presence. And that's my way of cleansing myself so that I can be here now with all of you with total clarity, total presence, and allowing the divine to inspire me to say whatever needs to be said. So I woke up at 1:30 in the morning because I thought I heard cats fighting. They were peacocks, and they're mating, but it sounds like screaming, and their cries sound like, help! I found it difficult to sleep. And I think inspiration wanted it that way because around 2:30 in the morning, it drilled into my head 3 statements. And I actually tried to push them aside. It's like, I'm trying to get rest. And it kept coming. And from inspiration, when it's very insistent like that, our job is to agree to it and say yes. And so I got up and wrote them down. And the 3 statements, they came as pure as could be. And these are very hooponopono, advanced hooponopono at that. Everything is alive. Everything is alive. I don't just mean you, but I mean this whiteboard, this speaker, the room. You've all read Zero Limit, correct? Yeah. All of you have read Zero. Anybody not read Zero Limit? You haven't read it? You haven't read it? Okay. I have a couple copies I can give you. This is the book that has started a movement. It is, out of all the books I've ever read, it is the #1 bestseller. It has changed lives across the globe, as all of you know firsthand. One of the reasons you're here. And I've learned to write down everything that's coming because everything is alive as a reminder that when Dr. Hulen went into rooms, and I talked about it in Zero Limits, he would talk to the room. Because it's alive. This room is alive. Now, this is a very spiritual place. When Caroline and Chuck and Matthew and I all came out here to review the place, we knew this was like a spiritual vortex all by itself. But the thing to remember is that everything is alive. Everything. The floor is alive. It's not just you. It's not the person beside you. Everything is alive. And if you take that on in a very real way, it can blow your mind. Because now you have to have respect for everything. It's not just the albino peacock that's out there. It's also for the raindrop It's also for the chairs and the tables and the trash can. It's for the lighting. It's for the wiring. It's for everything that we have. Everything is alive. That was the first statement that came in. The second one that came in is everything is a reflection. Everything is a reflection. Now, you've heard me say this in some of my other work and in The Secret Mirror and so forth, that everything, including all of you, are a reflection of what's inside me. This is huge in advanced hooponopono. If you think about Dr. Hu Lin actually working with those mentally ill criminals in the hospital, he didn't work with them. He worked with himself. They were the trigger for what was in him. But you have to extend this to realize that everything is a mirror. Everything is reflecting. Depending on where you are in your consciousness and in your understanding, you'll wrestle with that. Because you're going to want to change other people. You're going to want to change your family, your friends, your neighbors, the people that don't believe the same as you. You're going to want to change them. That's how we have been brought up. But in Ho'oponopono, everything is a mirror. Everything is reflecting. It's all inside you. This is huge. And the third statement that came to me was, everything can change. Everything can change. Now, some of you last night told some fantastic stories about either evading a snowstorm and outsmarting it, as one, to who's the woman that does, you do the therapy, and you are incorporating all kinds of things, including Ho'oponopono, and you're incorporating energy and bringing these miracles to people. I've heard so many great stories from our little social activities last night to realize that anything and everything can be changed. These are all very Ho'oponopono-ish statements. Everything is alive, everything is reflecting, everything can be changed or is changing. And we do it through inside work. Now, all of you know that the basic inside work. I mean, you couldn't be here without knowing it. You read either Zero Limits, you took the basic certification course, and you know, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, correct? I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Well, I've been doing that for over 10 years now. It could be 12 years. I haven't really been keeping track. So in my mind, that's the unconscious chatter. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. It's my background tape. We all have background tapes because we were grown up listening to other people telling us how they thought, and we developed our own little voice in our head. And for virtually all of us, it's not a very nice voice, right? It's a critical voice. And in fact, if any people in your life talk to you the way you talk to yourself in your head, you would want to get rid of them. Move away, move them away. And so I've replaced that voice. For the most part, no matter when I'm doing radio shows, when I'm speaking to you right now, in the back of my head is, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. It's just going on. So it's constant cleaning, and you want to be at that place where it happens automatically and naturally, and it becomes the new second habit for you. But you also don't want to stop there. This is called advanced Ho'oponopono for a reason. On the schedule, when Caroline asked me about what this was going to be, and of course I've always told everybody, I don't know what I'm going to talk about until I'm done talking. Then ask me, what are you going to talk about? Because then I'll know. I put down the awakening. I put down the awakening because my mission is to inspire you to go beyond where you are now. I'm still reaching forward. I'm still reaching out. When I wanted to learn about fitness, I went to Bill Phillips, as Michael said. When I wanted to learn about songwriting, I went to Ray Wiley Hubbard, I went to Kevin Welch, and I went to Melissa Etheridge. I went to her house. When I want to learn about Ho'oponopono, I go to Dr. Hu Lin, and when I want to go beyond it, I look for the other teachers. So I have to tell you something that's going to be mind-blowing, but I have to do this because I'm totally here to serve you. So I saw this documentary, this film. It was called Everything and Nothing. Everything and Nothing. And Narissa had gone to a meeting of some sort, and I thought, well, she's not going to like this movie, so I'm going to watch it and see where it goes. Plus, I'm going to be doing the Advanced Ho'oponopono weekend. Maybe there's something in there for me. So I felt inspired. So I watched Everything and Nothing, and it was fascinating. Fascinating mostly because how well it was done. And there was one scientist who was standing on a beach, and this beach had just miles of sand. I don't even know where he was. And he picks up some sand, And he starts moving it around in his fingers, and he holds just a grain. And he says, this grain represents our sun in our solar system. But all the grain of sand on that beach and all the grains of sand on all the beaches on our planet have suns too. Every grain of sand represents another sun in another system. Is this mind-blowing? Our understanding of life is that this is it. We got our sun, we got our moon, here's where we live. How cool is that? And be grateful for it. We ain't alone. It is bigger and more incomprehensible than anybody can understand. In fact, the movie went on, this is just the everything part, it went on and on talking about even gravity. The law of gravity actually isn't a law. When things fall, they're not falling because of the law, they're falling because all of our universe is on a slant, and it's actually finding the shortest path to get back to the next wavelength. It looks like it just falls, if I drop something, it just looks like it went right to the ground. No, actually, from a larger perspective, it was on a curve, and it went to the ground. I mean, we thought there was a law of gravity. This is mind-blowing. So I can't even describe how gigantic, colossal, preposterously huge everything is that we're in. So one day when I asked Dr. Hulen, where did hooponopono come from? And he said, Lemuria, probably. Well, Lemuria is a lost island like Atlantis was, only Lemuria was in the Pacific. And at first I thought, this is pretty crazy, but I'll go with it. He's a nice old guy, and I'll entertain him. And then as I watch this movie and I keep reading and all that, we don't know anything about anything. More bluntly, we don't know shit about nothing. We don't. The scientists are arguing with themselves and they're doing all of this research and they're finding out that the universe is a universe of all universes and there's so much here that all the sands are actually suns and it just, oh God, how do you keep up? That's the everything part. The movie was called Everything and Nothing. The nothing part takes it all the way back to 17 billion years ago. 17 billion, billion. We can't even fathom that. We can't get there. 17 billion years ago, there allegedly was a match-like tsh, which they now call the Big Bang. But even that Big Bang, they're now speculating, happened within a universe that already existed. It wasn't in a void. There was already a universe that was existing when the little match-like thing, which we call the Big Bang, started. And it took 300 million years before anything resembling any sort of life would ever begin to appear. So try to put hooponopono into the contents of this incomprehensible life that we have here, that we're still trying to understand. I watched that whole movie, Everything and Nothing, and at the end of it I went, man, I don't think I understood a thing. I got nothing out of this. But apparently I got something out of it because it's led to me telling you this much of the story. So, you know from my work in the basic hooponopono and zero limits and all that I always refer to the whiteboard. When Dr. Hulen and I always get together, we called it zero, and that's why the book was called Zero Limits. We're referring to that place where there are no limitations. And there's no programming. It's a zero state. It's a state of enlightenment, if you will. It's a state of awakening, if you will. It's the blank nothingness. It's the void. It's that place before the everything actually took place. But the thing that most people don't understand is you have this. You're connected to this. You are, I am, all of us. We're connected to this. But we've overlaid it with, I gave a talk one time. There's a YouTube video of the talk I gave. And they were all personal development leaders in the world, best-selling authors, counselors, famous people of the world. And I asked them to tell me all of the different things we do to actually improve ourselves. And man, we just kept writing on that board. There was everything from counseling to Reiki to, therapeutic stuff to Freudian this and Jungian this. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And I wasn't putting down anybody. I use these tools too. But the more we wrote here, the more we realized the whiteboard's gone. The whiteboard, which is the inspiration, was now gone. It was covered up. And from that perspective, when we look out into the world, you've heard the phrase that somebody that has a hammer just sees nails everywhere. Well, somebody that is coming from one philosophy of life or one practical tool of life change is coming from that perspective. When they look at anybody, they're just thinking, this is what you need to do. And in fact, in all the early seminars on hooponopono, the number one thing I heard people say that was inaccurate, they would tell each other, you need to clean on that. Oh yeah, I understand your problem. You need to clean on that. Which is not hooponopono. Hooponopono is the inside job. You don't tell anybody ever to clean on it. If they tell you something that's an issue for them, you clean on it. It's in your awareness. You helped create it. And so what we understand when we start moving into advanced hooponopono, and I've touched on this in my other books, is that in any moment you're coming from memory or you're coming from inspiration. And please note that even when I write something on the whiteboard, I am covering up the whiteboard. Okay? You always want to have this background witness of the whiteboard. And towards the end of this presentation, I'm going to take you right to the whiteboard. I am going to hold you by the hand and take you to 0. In any moment, we're coming from memory, which is a program, which is a belief, which is data. I swear to God, here's what's going on for every one of you right now. You are trying to make sense of what I'm saying within the contents of your own memory. Right now, all of you have different degrees of experience, different degrees of education. Some of you have read Zero Limits. Probably a lot haven't read the follow-up. How many read At Zero? A lot of you, great. At Zero was written 10 years later, and in many ways is the manual for pre-advanced hooponopono. And I talk about in there that our beliefs, our programs, our memories keep us from seeing this moment in any sort of pure way.